Welcome back, everyone, to another Steel Division Normandy 44 Weekly Cast. And this time it's going to be a free on Colombelle, featuring all 3 divisions from all sides, which is pretty nice to see. So we're going to see a lot of different units, and stop lagging like a bitch. Okay, so lots of infantry. It looks like rifles, considering it's a duck transporting them, then a ranger support, I'm guessing. From the left side player, who is X357. Yeah, seems to be playing as the 2nd Infantry Division, bringing out a few infantry units, nothing too strange. Then we have Ulair Minya playing as the 3rd Armored, with a Command Steward and 2 normal stewards, a few recon, M16 flak half-track, and a few half-tracks with infantry in it. Then we have the British player Metzel, who's going to be bringing out some recon and Humber, machine gun, 2-inch carrier. I would have brought out 2 for the town, but well, a few rifles and a few other infantry units on the side with a AT gun. On the German side, we have Alpha or Mega, okay, playing as Luftlande, with a few AT guns, infantry units, a machine gun, Panzer 39 actually, not a 35, a 39, mortar, a few more infantry units, another AT gun, 12th SS with a Firefly. 12th SS player is Robotron, then a few Panzer Grenadiers and trucks, a Scout car with some recon, and then Fierce Tomato with the Panzer Grenadiers. Stuck free right off the bat, and a few normal units. Now, I'm thinking that the town is going to be captured really easily by X, although it would be even easier for him if he had brought out a few of the assault rangers with the flamethrower. In the meantime, in the center, we have a pretty strong push from the Americans, although they're going to have to contend with the Boyd the Firefly. So I'm guessing Boyd the Firefly is going to come in and clean up this American push. Of course, not before it does its own damage. Panzer Grenadiers being pinned down, Panzer Grenadier leader also being pinned down, and a 222 Scout car going instantly down. Scouts being put on hold fire so that they don't reveal their own position, and they're going to be providing support. Command M4A1 definitely doing its job, M5A1 definitely doing its job, and right here the half-tracks might be able to provide enough fire support to deal with these Panzer Grenadiers, but the armored riflemen are taking huge amounts of damage, and one of the half-tracks was even too close to the tree line, so it took a Panzerfaust, and that suppressed all of the infantry around it. Definitely not too good. Looks like the American push might be shut down. There's a Humber coming in to support, but nothing too major. There's also a few infantry units for the Germans that seem to have dismounted a little bit farther off, and so they won't be participating in the fight for a while. I think that a big mistake for Ulair was not bringing out an AT gun. If he had gone for a, especially a 76mm, then he would have a very easy time against the Firefly. Of course, the Firefly gets kind of stunned and falls back because of the... Ooh, wow. Firefly gets taken out by the M5 Stuart. That's pretty insane. I wasn't expecting that. Well, I guess the free Stuart's definitely paying off. Here comes a fighter from X. He has a P38 Lightning, but not sure what that's going to do. I mean, it could definitely do some pretty good work against the LEIG and the PAC-40. But it doesn't look like it's been doing that. There goes American AT gun from the 2 German guns. On the right side, in the meantime, we have the British player going up against the Luftlande player. And the Panzer 39 is definitely going to be useful in this situation, although I would still like to see a Panzer 35 because it's less expensive. That would have allowed them to bring out a few more units to maybe even hold the right side of the map. Now, looks like a Fallschirmjäger and an AT gun are very closely huddled up together. And in the forest, that's not exactly the best idea, because what if some kind of mortar or an airstrike comes in? That's a lot of points sitting in one little place. There goes the Piat trying to destroy the Panzer 39, and it works. So that's even more points going down the drain for Alpha or Omega, which would have been less if it had been a Panzer 35. And in the meantime, the Humber actually doing a very, very good push into the middle of the map, securing tons of territory for the Allies, which is pretty decent indeed, because that brings them up to total victory status in 30 minutes. So they are getting 55% of the map under their control. And right now, the Stuarts, along with the American infantry and the half-track support, are working on the last remaining throws of the German mechanized troops. And right now, Panzer Grenadiers are trying to reach the free line to obviously provide some cover and some defense. But even if they do, I don't really fancy their chances. It's only 3 infantry units against quite a lot of Stuarts and armored vehicles. So even though they have the Panzerfausts, I don't think they're going to be able to do much. Something more like this Panzer II-C is something that's needed, although the Panzer II-C is definitely not enough. I think Robotron should have brought out a couple of AT guns to deal with these Stuarts. In fact, he's definitely being a little bit overzealous and pushing over the forest instead of just into it with the Panzer Grenadiers, and that means that the machine guns on the Stuarts can easily destroy the infantry units in the open. In the meantime, the Stug from Fierce Tomato is being redeployed to support the dealing of the Stuarts, but the Stug is going to be definitely able to deal with the Stuarts at long range, although the problem is that the Stug isn't really going to be able to chase them down if they decide to retreat. Right now, the Stuarts looks like they're going to charge in, and that's not exactly the best choice against the Stug if the Stug manages its ammunition correctly. There's also a Henschel from Alpha Omega, so on the right side, spending 200 points on a Henschel to deal with maybe the Stuarts. Looks like one of them went down. And, well, oh no, okay, it's over here. And the Stug also went down. Damn, the Stuart's doing some very good work. I'm not sure how that is possible. Like, how did the Stug go down? I'm very confused. And these M5A1s shouldn't have been able to deal with that at such a long range. Oh well, a couple of P-38s being brought in by IX, although the problem is the Henschel has gone already. I think that was the reason that they were brought in. In the meantime, we have a bit of a fight over the town, although the British are pushing up. It seems like the Germans are going to be able to bring in enough reinforcements. They have a couple of Ersatztruppen coming in, and also a machine gun. And then they have a Fallschirmjäger squad that just went down in that building. So if the British can continue using their mortar carriers to pretty good effect, then they're going to be able to clear out the town in no time. Those 2 mortar carriers are really, really good. The British players being definitely too passive on the right side. And while the Humber push over here was good, it did provide quite a lot of territory to the Allies. I still think that he should be a little bit more aggressive in both the town and the extreme right. Because that would put a little bit more pressure on Alpha Omega. He could use 200 points for a Henschel. So that means that he wasn't really brought on under too much pressure from the rest of the Allied forces, nor his own player. Right now, here comes some more help for Robotron in the form of a Schwimmwagen with some AT, and also a Pak 38 50mm. The 2 Panzer IIs are trying to destroy the infantry, although without any recon support, it's going to be hard. Here comes the recon, but it gets unloaded way too far away, and ammo explosion as the Panzer II gets taken out by the Stuart rush. Stuart Horde is still pushing up and just not even caring, although they're going to face 2 anti-tank guns and 3 anti-tank guns soon. That's not going to be very good for them. They take out another Panzer II. They've just been doing so much work for the Americans, and that's just... You shouldn't allow Stuarts to do this. As much as Stuarts can be really good, you shouldn't allow such a cheap unit to do so much work. There goes the other AT gun because it wasn't unloaded. That's a very big mistake as well. There's another AT gun here. Finally, the command Stuart goes down to the Pak 38s, and the Stuarts realize that maybe they are a little bit outmatched and retreat, but they've done the damage. The damage really is already done. The Germans are completely pushed back to their base, and the Americans have an excellent position in this tree line and this tree line, and then they can also set up a few units here to cover these sort of approaches. and then bring in a few more later game units to counter the AT guns. So, for example, if Ulair wanted to, we're going to be in Phase B soon, he could bring out a Calliope to counter the two AT guns. He could bring out also a, I believe a Priest is the one that the Third Armored has. No, maybe it's not a Priest. Well, he can bring out any number of different answers. So any artillery unit that's going to do very well against the anti-tank guns, and then he can bring in the Stuarts and maybe even a Jumbo to deal with the rest. Of course, he could also just bring in a Jumbo. There's also planes coming in, 2 P-51 Mustangs actually. So he's going to be wanting to keep air superiority while also strafing down enemy support weapons, which is exactly what he's doing against that pack. And right now, here comes a bit of an infantry reinforcement push from Alpha Omega. I'm guessing that these are Grenadiers, because now that we're in Phase B, the Grenadiers are available to the Lufthansa, and so I'm guessing that he's going to be trying to use those against the British in the town. Might not be the best idea, though, because of the presence of these 2-inch mortar carriers. I would have liked to see something to deal with these. For example, any number of artillery, like a SFH howitzer, that would have been pretty decent, providing some support against the 2-inch carriers. Heck, even a plane, maybe a Junkers 88 bomber. That would have also been pretty useful. Very luckily, though, the 2-inch carriers have finished their ammunition. So the grenade... Oh, that's actually Ersatztruppen. So, he still got room for a lot of points, most likely. Well, he actually had to bring in a lot of points of anti-tank guns. There goes a P-51 Mustang from the ME-109 by Robotron, it would seem. No, Robotron and Alpha Omega. Was that a P-51? Yes, it was. So, also here comes 2 Spitfires from Metzel, so lots of fighters going down. No real bombers except for this Thunderbolt. We'll see what the target of this is. I'm guessing this concentration of troops, or maybe the LEIG AT gun. Here comes the bomb, and yes, indeed, it's going to be the concentration of troops in the forest. Although it's only a light bomb and it doesn't really do anything, and that's a bit of a problem also because there's an ME-109 that's going to be chasing down the Thunderbolt and mercilessly slaying it. Although more Spitfires coming in from Metzel, this time with bombs loaded, and these are going to be targeting the anti-tank guns for the German players in the center, and that's exactly the target I would put these Spitfires up against. Unfortunately, it seems like he has Evac Winchester on by default, which is a bit of a problem because you would want your fighters sticking around to act as fighters later on and strafe down enemy troops. There goes the P-38 Lightning with the heavy bomb load, taking out the ME-109 because it had already dropped its bombs, and so its maneuverability is pretty normal at this point. So it seems like in the center there's still nothing going on. I would have liked to see either side taking advantage of the fact that it doesn't seem like there's anything going on, and then trying to get a bit of a push in to this area to at least distract the opponents from the main battlegrounds in the center and right. And of course, in the right, there's still this bit of a problem for the Germans called 2-inch mortar carriers. Now, one of them actually still has ammunition, and the other one has depleted ammunition, so I was a little bit confused by that. And this one is just doing all kinds of work, stunning down the enemy infantry units and forcing them to retreat. There's also a Stuart, a Honey Stuart from Metzel, which is providing excellent flanking fire support against all the units that are retreating. And it's also going to be able to shoot at these units in the buildings, I'm guessing, once they are spotted by the British infantry. But the problem is there's a Stuke 3G, which is probably going to be able to deal with the Stuart quite nicely. So the Stuart has to retreat back to the cover of the buildings to not get shot. Now the Stuart sees the 6-pounder and shoots at it. 6-pounder, interestingly, does not see the Stuke. Oh, it's out of range. Okay. Because the Stuke is 12. No, it's not 12. Then how is it not in range? Well, the range is supposed to be the same, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like the 6-pounder is trying to retaliate on the Stug, which is a bit of a problem because the 6-pounder could do quite nicely against that vehicle, especially if it shows its side armor like this. And the 6-pounder could be able to get a very good shot in if it were to move up to the edges of the forest, thus not having these trees in front of it. That would be very nice. for that, but it looks like the steward is going to be left to deal with the Stug alone, and that's not a fight that it wants to be in. And I'm guessing that the steward is going to go down very soon. Oh, that's so unlucky. These Stugs seem to miss quite a bit. Very lucky for the steward that missed, because that was really, really close. And it should have been the end of the steward. I mean, it definitely stayed a little bit too much in the line of sight of that tank destroyer. There's also a Bedford supply that was brought up by the Brits. That was a really good move, because he needs those mortar carriers to be working at full regime. Although the Semi-109, I think, is coming in. No, it shoots at the MG, does a little bit of damage and forces it at the building, but not really too much. Here also comes a fighter. I would not put my fighter so far behind enemy lines, because I'm thinking that here comes a air spawn from the Allies. In fact, very luckily for the Germans, no air spawn from the Allies comes in, and it gets to retreat. Wolverine tank destroyer has been called in, and there's also a Enemy-109. Not sure what that's doing. Wolverine gonna be trying to deal with Stug. Of course, both of these vehicles kind of similar in terms of gun performance and armor. And so it's going to be a little bit of a slugfest, seeing whether or not one of the two sides can actually hit each other. Here comes a two SK-18 purchase from Fierce Tomato, which should be doing some damage to the American 2nd ID forces that are trying to advance. The problem is, Fierce Tomato needs something to push back the Allies from the town and get back to town under German control to get some victory points and some map control that's desperately needed. And that, oh, sorry, I just smacked the microphone. And that's not what's happening. It's a big problem. And I don't think that right now Fierce Tomato is going to be able to do really much about it. He has a Befehlspanzer IV, but the Command Panzer IV is really not going to be doing all that much when there's a 57mm anti-tank gun that can do some good work against that, while the M4A1 can also try to destroy it. Now, I'm guessing that the Panzer IV might have already spotted the Sherman, but there's a very good smoke barrage coming in from the 107mm mortar, doing some marvelous work in protecting the Sherman from the fire of that Panzer IV, and maybe allowing the Allies to bring in forces a little bit closer to that German tank, where the higher AP of the German gun doesn't really matter quite as much compared to the American counterpart. There's also a Marder 2 being brought in by Fierce Tomato, which is an okay choice. I think that also Uller is making a bit of a mistake in being so passive in the center. I would have brought out a Jumbo or two and just charged through the spawn. Putting my infantry in the next tree line, and then in the town, and then in the other town, and then coupling that with a couple of AT guns in the tree lines to cover them. And it looks like Uller has been doing the exactly opposite, basically just buying planes, I think that's what he's been doing for all this time, because I don't really see other purchases from him except this contingent, which is now going to be trying to secure the gap that we have earlier been talking about. P-38, sorry, trying to bring in some bombs on the Marder 3. There he goes, the Marder 3. Very good bombing run by the P-38. A little bit of a mistake from the Marder 3 standing so still when there were enemy planes in the air. Also, armored riflemen here are definitely going to be able to take out these Ersatztruppen, even if the Ersatztruppen were able to deal quite a bit of damage against the armored riflemen. The two half-tracks in support and the Honey Steward are completely invulnerable to whatever these troops can do to them. Here comes a couple of Spitfire bombers. Might be going in against the infantry, but definitely going to be trying to shoot down the Semi-109. They succeed, and they don't really manage to do all that much else because, again, Evac Winchester is on. Definitely a major mistake. Rifles are trying to throw grenades at the tank. What? I thought that these rifles didn't have grenades. Well, it's definitely not doing anything, so that's pretty nice. Not really quite sure about this. Oh well. Yeah, Panzer 3090 doesn't really care about the rifles, so it's gonna be shooting them now that it sees them. And maybe that's gonna be, even though it's shooting in the middle of the two buildings, it's still doing quite a bit of damage. Oh well, that's really weird. Really weird, but that does not prevent the Germans from actually doing a bit of a counterattack, although the town still remains in the control of the Allied forces. And yeah, hold on a second. Here comes the fighters against the recon positions, but that wasn't going to be all too much of a danger to the Germans regardless. So it looks like the Germans are going to be trying to bank their eggs in the basket of this bit of a contingent that's essentially to the west of the river. Now, the problem with that is that there's this expander and a Wolverine in the area, and I don't think they're going to be able to push through even with these reinforcements that are being brought up, because the Germans have been taking lots of losses in not only land forces but also air forces, which I think they were kind of relying on. And that's kind of a mistake. Whenever you're in bad position, whenever you're in the back foot, you kind of want to bring out the normal units, not tons of air. Tons of air can definitely help, and this is definitely a bait. The Stork, yep, indeed, Fierce Tomato brings in the fighter, and there are also a ton of AA half tracks from him. Yeah, whenever you see somebody bring out a recon plane, it's most likely a bait to bring in your fighters so that then he can bring in his fighters to destroy yours. Also, very good job with the Thunderbolts with the heavy rockets taking out an AT gun, but at the same time, again, falling for the bait, not very good. Robotron brings in an ME-109 and shoots down the enemy fighters. Kind of a paradox. We're going to see that the Germans are going to be doing quite decently in terms of the kill-to-death ratio, mostly because they've been bringing out a few of these fighters and shooting down enemy planes. The problem is, because of that, they are losing the game in general. So in this case, the scoreboard is going to be a little bit deceptive. And that's kind of something that irks me a little bit about Steel Vision. I would like there to be a territory captured score mode. So not only the score for units lost and killed, but also for territory captured. I would definitely like to see that, because it would kind of help in gauging actually how much somebody did towards winning the game. Because most people, I'm thinking, play the conquest mode and not the destruction mode. So I don't know. Actually, vetted fighters coming in from the Luftwaffe. You do get 2 of these ME-109s with 2 veterancy stars in Phase C. So that's a pretty okay little purchase. For only 140 points, you get a very, very powerful fighter. Problem is, you only get 1 per card, and it's not really all that useful whenever the enemy has lots of control like this Allied team has. There are 3 Bofforses from Metzel. Problem is, these Bofforses are way too far back to actually help in any air engagements. I'm guessing that bringing them up in a line around here would be a little bit of a better choice. Also, Bofforses aren't really all that good at actually killing things. Oh, this is a bit of a problem. 2 Wolverines being brought in, tons of Allied bombers trying to help the push from the armor. There goes a few infantry units. The Stug is forced to fall back, which is very lucky, because that's exactly when the Wolverines turned a corner and destroyed the Stug easily without any danger whatsoever. Here comes an ME-109, but it's going to get shot down maybe by the Allied AA and the Thunderbolt. Here comes the AP-38 Lightning as well, taking it out most likely. And also the P-47 Thunderbolt is going to be able to drop a bomb on something. I would have... Well, they don't know that the attack is there. Drops it on the Panzer 39H and forces it to retreat. These Wolverines pushing up was a bit of a gamble, because the Stug was lying in ambush, and then once the Wolverines had turned a corner, they would have been able to shoot at the Stug, but the Stug would have been able to shoot at them. So it's very lucky for them that that bomber came in and bombed the Stug and forced it to not shoot and retreat. SK-18s still pounding away the Allied defenses. These artillery guns are fairly expensive, and they haven't really been doing all that much, because when you have artillery, you really want to be backing it up with boots on the ground. You don't want to be shooting your artillery and then not doing anything about it. Now, there goes another Stuart from the Panther D. Robotron has been having this Panzer IV-H and the Panther D for a long, long time. The problem is, he hasn't really been making use of them so much. He also has a Hummel and a Panzer IV artillery wagon. So putting down a barrage on the American infantry in the center and then pushing him with the Panther is definitely a sound strategy. The problem is he really has waited way too long to do that. Right now, the Allies have a bit of a overwhelming air superiority available to them. They seem to have basically endless levels of planes, which may be reduced right now as a bit of a reckless push from Ulair costs him a Thunderbolt when he gets up against the 37mm flak guns. Something that I've noticed is that the German AA is actually much better than the Allied AA in general, except for one unit, which may still be alive here. Now, it seems to have died. The M16 flak half-track for the Americans is actually really powerful, the one with the quad 50 cals. There goes the Panzer IV-H command tank, actually, from a 17-pounder. No, actually a 76mm AT gun. Very good job with that. I definitely like that right now Ulair is using this AT gun on hold fire, and then he's going to be bringing the fire down on the enemy only when he so desires. I like that because it allows them to get a few sight shots that he normally wouldn't be able to. Of course, on this Panzer IV, it was a front shot, front armor shot. That's because the 76mm anti-tank gun has 14 penetration, and the Panzer IV has, I believe, like 8 frontal armor, so nothing too major. There goes the mortar carrier from a Pak 43 88mm. This is a bit of a problem for the Germans. They brought out 130 points of AT gun when they needed more points of infantry to actually storm the town. And I'm definitely surprised that the 17th, and there it goes from the Thunderbolts. It's also a very vulnerable investment because something like the Thunderbolt can come in and destroy them. Thunderbolt pays the ultimate price for that, however, so I'm guessing that the Germans are going to be a little bit fine with that because the Thunderbolt is indeed more expensive than the tank. And here comes the German infantry push, and it gets immediately shut down by the 107mm mortar and the M4 Sherman, firing its machine gun at long range. Because the Germans definitely didn't do as much of a good job at softening up Allied defenses as they should have been. I'm not sure what these SK-18s are still shooting at, but it's definitely not what they should be doing. Another thing that the Germans really should be doing right now is instead of bringing out so many long-range gun artilleries, they should have brought in a Nebelwerfer 42. Bringing it up to about here, it would have had the range to shoot into the town, and that would have done two things. It would have destroyed units. Obviously, Nebelwerfer 42 has those very powerful rockets, which can destroy units quite quickly, especially something like this MG, these AT guns, and even the mortar. It would be very useful against that. It would have also accomplished another thing. It would have destroyed all the buildings, thus facilitating fire support from other German units. And that's the other thing that the Germans should have done, other than bringing in the Nebelwerfer. They should have been supporting this pioneer push with something like either AT guns, which is why I think bringing up that 43 into the Orchard was a bit of a mistake. They should have been bringing in their anti-tank and artillery guns into this area to help push into the town. And then they should have also supported that with vehicles. Now, right now, I don't think that Fierce Tomato really has much in terms of vehicles, except for a Command Panzer IV and a Marder. But the Marder and the Command Panzer IV are being brought into the center, and that's not where they're going to be very useful. Well, the Marder maybe, because there's jumbos from Ulair. But for the rest, I still don't think that that's very useful. Here comes a huge air battle on the right side. Looks like the Allies have the numerical superiority, but the Germans have a few AA pieces helping them out, and I don't think many casualties are going to be had along this battle. A few airstrikes being brought in against the Flak 36s, and that's actually kind of okay because there's also a a British artillery, a 25-pounder. There goes one of the Lightnings, and the other P-38 has been able to escape. So Germans still managing to get a few victories in the air, but here comes a very nice push from Metzel, bringing in 3 Wolverines, and actually no, 4 Wolverines in the center, with their 50 caliber machine gun on top, firing away at the last remaining Germans here, and they might be able to even destroy the Flak 88 with their barrage of HE rounds. Very good job from these tank destroyers. A bit of a surprise push from Metzel is exactly what the Allies needed to do to break the deadlock that has been the right side of the map for this entire time. There goes a Junkers 88 bomber being run in to rectify the situation by the Allied fighters. And indeed, this push might just reach the base, cut off this entire area. But it looks like the Wolverines are going to be swinging around to the right. Being actually supported by 3 Crusader AAs is actually a kind of a good move, because the Crusader AAs are not only going to be helping out against enemy planes, they're going to be extremely useful against enemy light targets such as infantry, now that the Wolverines have finished their supply of HE ammunition. Well, some of them at least. It's going to be very helpful. A few units are being run in to respond by Alpha Omega, but he has been investing a little bit too much into planes to support his allies, and there's really not much that he can do at this point. A few more planes on the left side of the map, being countered by Fierce Tomatoes ME-109s. Indeed, the SK-18s are doing quite a bit of a number on the American forces in the town, but that's really not enough, because obviously the Germans don't really have as much to push in, and still, even if they did push in, then the Allies are at 2 minutes away from a total victory. So they're really not going to be able to exploit all that much. And in fact, I think the Allies would have been in a much better position. The main mistake I think that Uller did has been being so passive. I think he could have definitely pushed up to at least this town and this tree line to get a little bit more map control on the Germans, and he could have definitely pushed up very far and aggressively into this area of the map. And that's something that he hasn't done. Mostly, I think, because he was afraid of large enemy forces being in these two areas, this tree line and this tree line. So what I think he should have done is just being a little bit more aggressive, probing with maybe the half tracks or a recon unit, and then bringing in the Stuart and the riflemen to support and try to at least overrun the area. He knew that this entire area was covered by a Luftlanding player, so it was likely that it was covered by Ersatz-Truppen who have no AT capabilities. So the half-tracks are exactly the kind of unit that you want to push into these kind of areas. So really, his early rush won the Allies the game, and then his reluctance to carry it through may have delayed the inevitable for the Germans. But that still means he won the game for his team, so it's still pretty good. He also brought in a Calliope on the left side, completely stopping the push of Fierce Tomatoes infantry and also forcing him to rage quit. Not really forcing him, but making him rage quit. And as you can see, quite a bit of destruction going on, but the Calliope with its lighter rockets definitely isn't all that much up to snuff compared to something like a Nebelwerfer, which would be able to destroy the houses quite entirely. And right now, finally, the Germans are doing the push that I kind of wanted them to do for 20 minutes. That is to say, supported by vehicles and support weapons with the mainstay of their forces. There goes a Wolverine from the Panzer IV artillery spotter. Artillery spotter, I'm guessing, is out of barrages. That's why it's being brought in so close to the front lines. Wolverine trying to deal with it and doing quite a good job at it. But there's a command panther, actually, which destroyed another Stuart. So there goes the last of the Stuarts for Uller. Uller also has a jumbo, which actually could be used a little bit more aggressively. It could be brought up to try to flank this panther through the woods, although the panther is definitely a formidable opponent, and maybe it's best left to the M57mm AT gun. Very good job from the other 57mm AT gun from the ambush position of the forest, taking out that very expensive German vehicle, and there goes the end of the game. Now, yeah, it may look like from the kill-to-death ratio that some of the Allies didn't really do all that well, comparatively, and it may look like that some of them has done incredibly well, but really, most of the victory for the Allies is thanks to Uller, despite the fact that his score is kind of lower than Metzel's, which is, again, kind of an interesting choice from the developers of the game to not put a territory captured marker, or a points earned marker, something like that. And that is exactly why Metzel's score is a little bit padded. As you can see, a lot of these kills are from planes. That means that he hasn't really been providing a lot of map control to the Allied forces. It's definitely helpful, don't get me wrong, to kill enemy planes. Obviously, they can do quite a bit of damage against your pushes, they can wreck your AT weapons, etc., etc. But at the same time, they don't really provide what's needed to win, which is map control. And that is exactly what something like an early push, an early aggressive push can do, and that is exactly what also a little bit of a more aggressive follow-up later would have done even more effectively. So I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed this Steel Division replay cast, and I'll see you soon.